Hello and welcome inside the Star in Frisco, Texas. Jacob Brooks alongside me, Chris Cartman, to recap ASU's Big 12 Football Media Day. Chris, there's a lot to talk about even before the Media Day surrounding the Sun Devils because ASU was the only team that originally planned to bring 7 players. The University of Arizona planned to bring 6 and then eventually decided upon bringing a 7th player. So ASU bringing that many guys, but not just any players, the 7 players that were voted on by the players on the football team to be on the Pat Tillman Leadership Council, which really kind of spoke volumes compared to the rest of the teams that were here inside the Star about the leadership and the culture that ASU has been building. What did you take away from that?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. 6 of them are returning players, even some guys that haven't been impact starters in the past. Like Montana Warren was a part-time starter. Jalen Clem hasn't been a starter really until the Sun Bowl. And those guys are out here. Kyson Brown, very limited starter, right? I think it reflects kind of their culture, the confidence that they have in their returning players, holding the rest of their players accountable, and being very work-driven. Dillingham said that he loves the leadership of the team, even though a lot of those guys have not been star players per se, because of the way that they work and the way that they hold other people accountable to their standards. And those guys all got a great perk, which was going to the World Cup game, Spain, Portugal, yesterday.
I'm jealous.
I'm very jealous. Yesterday when they arrived, they got the private jet, first of all, right? Then they went from the private jet to Jerry's World to watch Portugal, Spain. I mean,
can't beat that.
They're having a pretty good start to their week.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with everything you were saying about what it says about the culture that guys who maybe haven't even been impact starters were voted to be on the leadership council. But what about the fact that a newcomer in Lyric Rawls was voted to be on the leadership council, and he's literally only been in Tempe for a few months? What else does that say? Yeah,
well, see, he's got a lot of experience having been on 2 prior Big 12 teams. He was the leading unassisted tackler at Kansas last year. And so he brings this veteran presence, but also a natural leader. And they're trying to replace Xavier Alford on the back end of their defense, who was like their team speech guy, the rah-rah guy. Dillingham said he doesn't know who's going to give the speeches this year. But Lyric Rawls has that alpha presence on the back end that you kind of need, I think, in a secondary. And he seemed very excited to be able to be here, be voted to that level by his teammates.
And Chris, in terms of takeaways for the actual team itself, one thing that I was able to ask Kenny Dillingham and CJ Fight about was the loss of Michael Gardner. You reported a few weeks ago at this point that he was going to miss his 2nd straight season due to tearing his other Achilles, not the one that he had torn last year.
Yeah.
What did we learn through the conversations with guys like Dillingham and Fight today about how that could impact the team moving forward?
Yeah, so we already knew that CJ Fight is their anchor nose tackle type of a player. Zach Swanson in 2024 was arguably their 2nd best D tackle, and when he's healthy, which he wasn't last year, he's an impact player. I think he and Mike Keel have some similarities. But what I learned today was that Hiram Vaono, who's a junior college addition from Butler, I think, Community College in Kansas, is somebody that is they're very, thinking very highly of.
Yeah.
He came in with Jeffrey Mann's 2 junior college D tackle additions this spring, and I thought neither one of them really was that heralded in terms of like the attention that they got in recruiting or the offers. And I thought that both were pretty impressive in the spring. So now it seems like Vaono may move up. Blazin Lono Wong's going to play a major role, and they have several other players. It's a deep group. It's just that Gardner had this dynamic athleticism that I think is tough to replace. Zach Swanson's the guy who probably is going to be able to most closely mirror that.
And Chris, there was also a little bit of newsworthy stuff that we got from athletic director Graham Rossini, who provided some updates about the timelines. It feels like almost every stadium that ASU has is getting some sort of renovation or some sort of project is going in the works for every sport. So what were the updates that he gave you? Because you were asking him all about it.
Yeah, so this football indoor facility that's going to be a really big deal for the team, moving their practice facility adjacent to the stadium as opposed to across rural.
No more taking those golf carts every.
Yeah, that's the shuttling players back and forth.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing of the past. That's going to break ground in the fall.
Okay.
So we're probably within the next 2 or 3 months away from media coverage of the groundbreaking of that, and that's going to be like a year and a half project or so.
Yeah.
And then DFA, everybody's very excited about that. I'm sure the building is 1974, not a lot of changes in public-facing areas since then, right? 50 plus years now. So what we learned is that the capacity is going to be reduced. They're going to have wider seating. They're going to have more premium seating options, and then renderings of the whole project are expected to come out. He said during volleyball season, so probably also like maybe September to November time, I would say. They've already, I was at ASU a few weeks ago, they already have a huge amount of taking things out of the arena. They have like, they're sending in the small little Caterpillar things to like take things out, and they're dumping tons of stuff. So this thing is going to be it's a 3-year phase, thing.
Yeah.
But people are going to notice pretty significant changes already, like this year.
Okay, good to know. And finally, Chris, the state of this conference, it felt like there was a ton of drama going on at this Big 12 Media Day. The very first question that Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark got asked was about Brendan Sorsby, and he goes, "Hey, thank you for the question, but I'm not talking about that today. This is the time to talk about football." And then any question after that he got about it, he was like, nope, and shut it down right away. A little bit of drama with that. Other drama, if you look around, you can see all the Monster Energy branding. Reportedly, the Big 12 is going to have Monster Energy symbols for all regular season games on every team's jersey, and the Sports Business Journal reported that Monster Energy only had to pay $1 million for each team.
$20 million total, $1 million distributed to each team.
Yeah, which is
seems like kind of,
interesting.
A lot of it's got a lot of attention when I posted this on X, and a lot of the comments were like, wait, their teams are only going to get like $1 million a year.
It seems kind of low.
And Monsters is going to go on like the field and the courts. That's a major
lot.
It's a major thing. So yeah, there's some I don't know what, who knows like what, if that's like the best they could have got. Maybe it is. I don't know, but that has rubbed some people a little bit wrong. And the schools are also going to still be allowed to have their own partnership with one brand that they're also going to be able to wear a patch on. So we're going to
start looking like a NASCAR sooner rather than later.
Yeah, but speaking of that, even Kenny Dillingham brought up Ricky Bobby, totally unrelated today, which I'm going to have a story about later. But and the Sorsby thing was interesting because he said, Yormark, there was the very first question, and Yormark said, today isn't the day for that.
And when is? This is like the only time you're made available.
The entire media assembled, and that is a thing that affects Texas Tech's team, which is the team that everybody expects to be.
That situation is probably the sole reason like half the people here flew out here.
Yeah, so there was a lot of like tension between Texas Tech media and Yormark.
Yeah.
There was another interaction, and then now there's like, I'm reading that there's like people saying that Texas Tech should leave the Big 12. Like Texas Tech media are saying, I don't know where Texas Tech's going, but yeah. So that was also pretty interesting from today. And then Kenny Dillingham, he did a quick dodge of another possible little beef story between Jaden Daniels.
That was a bad question.
The way it was phrased was bad. But Brandon Ayuk and Jaden Daniels, very close friends.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into it all here.
We are not getting into it. You can search them up, and I guarantee you'll find it on Twitter.
Yeah, but Dillingham was like, I don't know. I've been in Aspen. Like whether he has heard or not about what's been going on with that in the last couple of days. But that was a good dodge.
Yeah, and
artful.
With all this drama and everything going on, my final question to you is, where do you feel like ASU stands in this conference right now? And with fall camp starting up soon on August 5th, we'll have all the coverage once that kicks off. Where do you feel like ASU stands both on the field and off the field?
It's a great question. Dillingham was also kind of asked about, in a way, about who could be a surprise in the Big 12.
Yeah.
And he was like, I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. And you know what? The reason is we're here in the same place that 2 years ago ASU was picked last by the media and then won the conference. And then they literally got rid of the balloting because of that. And the reason is because these teams change so much from year to year due to the transfer portal.
Yeah.
That it makes, if you haven't watched the teams practice or you don't really get a feel for their chemistry or their unit strengths or whatever, like it's hard, it's very difficult to make a projection. The one thing I will say is, in doing this many years, ASU's team looked deeper and more talented in the spring than most of the teams that I've covered at ASU. Now, I also think that other teams are deeper and more talented. That makes it harder to calibrate. I would be surprised. I've said this before. The like, you know, for betting lines, it's like the ASU is an over/under of 6.5 wins.
Yeah.
I would take the over on that. Like, I think ASU is more.
Gambling advice with Chris Cartman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Listen, if you lose money, then I'm sorry, but you also should listen to all of our Thursday podcasts during the season, because we pick the games, and historically, I'm over 60% on ASU games. So I'll make it up to you, you know, in that way. But I think we're, you know, injuries can bring it down. And if you get more, then that's, you know, I may change my forecast. But right now, I think ASU is probably around a 7.5, 8 win team.
Well, that'll do it from here at the Star in Frisco, Texas. Like I said, ASU football fall camp starts off August 5th. Chris and I will be out there every day in the scorching heat, getting you guys the content that you need. So that'll do it from Jacob Brooks, Chris Cartman. We're saying so long. We'll see you next time.